They thought you'd never say no. That's why they kept asking for more of your time, more of your energy, more of your patience, more of your understanding, more chances, more forgiveness, more sacrifice. Because when someone gets used to you always saying yes, they stop appreciating the fact that you had a choice in the first place. They stop seeing your kindness as a gift and they start treating it like it's an obligation. They begin expecting what they should have been appreciating. And that's one of the quickest ways people lose good people. See, people don't usually become entitled overnight. No, entitlement grows every single time someone believes that they'll never hear the word no. Every time you overextend yourself, every time you put yourself last, every time you ignore your own needs just to make someone else comfortable, you're unintentionally teaching people what you'll tolerate. And here's the part that nobody likes to talk about. People will often take as much as you're willing to give. And it's not because they're all evil, but because human nature expands into the space that's available. If you never establish a limit, most people won't establish one for you. That's why boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're about teaching people how to participate in your life. But the people who benefited from the old version of you, they don't like boundaries because boundaries interrupt entitlement. Think about that. The moment you finally say no, you're no longer the easy person to manipulate. You're no longer the person to guilt trip. You're no longer the easy person to control. And suddenly, the people who loved your kindness start accusing you of changing. Have you noticed that? They'll say, you've changed. You're different. You're selfish. You used to care. No. You finally started caring about yourself too, and that's what changed. And to someone who was benefiting from your self-abandonment, your self-respect feels like rejection. That's why saying no feels so uncomfortable at first. It's not because you're doing something wrong, because you've trained your nervous system to believe that disappointing other people is dangerous. Maybe growing up, love was conditional. Maybe peace in your home depended on keeping everyone else happy. Maybe you became the fixer, the peacemaker, the people pleaser, the one who carried everyone else's emotional weight. So when you finally started setting boundaries, it doesn't just challenge the people around you. It challenges the identity that you've carried for years. That's why it feels so hard. You're not just changing behavior. You're changing who you believe you have to be in order to deserve love. And that's a powerful transformation because somewhere along the way, you learned that saying yes made you lovable. But here's what life eventually will teach you. The people who only love the version of you that has no boundaries don't actually love you. They love access. There's a difference. Real love doesn't disappear because you finally protected your peace. Real love adjusts. Control, resist. You see, healthy people may not always like your boundary, but they'll respect it. Manipulative people, though, they'll fight it because boundaries expose motives. You see, when somebody gets angry that you finally said no, sometimes they're revealing what they expected from you all along. Unlimited access, unlimited forgiveness, unlimited sacrifice with very little in return. And eventually you get tired. And it's not because you're weak, because you finally realize something. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't keep saving people while you're drowning yourself. You can't keep abandoning yourself, hoping someone else will finally choose you. Because the moment you choose yourself, everything changes. You see, there's a verse that says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Whether you understand that spiritually, psychologically, philosophically, or simply through your own life experience, the principle remains the same. Integrity means your words have weight, not because they're loud, because they're honest. And when your no finally becomes real, your yes becomes valuable because now people know you're choosing, not complying. And that's where confidence begins. Not in becoming harder, in becoming clearer. That's why I always say, I help people reinterpret their past so that they can reclaim their future. Because maybe all those years you thought you were being loving, afraid of losing relationships, afraid of rejection, afraid that if you stopped giving, people would stop loving you. But maybe that wasn't love in the first place. Maybe it was dependence. Maybe it was convenience. Maybe it was control. And seeing that truth doesn't make you bitter. It makes you free. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote Phoenix from Stability to Power. Because personal power isn't about learning how to dominate people. It's learning how to stop abandoning yourself. It's learning that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. They let the right people in and they keep the wrong expectations out. So yes, They thought you'd never say no. They thought you'd always be available, always understanding, always forgiving, always sacrificing, always waiting, always expecting less than you deserved. They built an entire expectation around the old version of you. What they never expected was that one day you'd realize your peace was worth protecting. They never expected that your confidence would become stronger than your fear. They never expected that your self-respect would become louder than your need for approval. And that's why your no shocked them. Not because it was cruel, because it was unfamiliar. You see, the real victory wasn't proving them wrong. The real victory was becoming someone who finally gave themselves permission to choose peace over people pleasing. And once you did that, you discovered something beautiful. No didn't make you lose yourself. It introduced you to yourself. Peace, blessings, love, and power.